With that said, skepticism is entirely warranted. Pretty much anything that is presented to you by the narrative crew. And the narrative crew is, again, Democrats, the media, their woke corporate buddies. Speaking of the narrative crew, I have to tell you a story that is not a national news story. Again, the way that we determine whether a story is national news or not is whether it fits the left-wing narrative. So the national news stories are all the ones where a racist killing takes place, or an allegedly racist killing takes place, or a killing that has nothing to do with race takes place, but the victim is black and the perpetrator or alleged suspect is white. Right? Those are the ones that are national news. What is never national news is an open hate crime against white people by black people. That is never, ever, ever national news. That is a local news story. To take an example from a local place, there was a shooting. It took place in New Orleans, Louisiana, in Jefferson Parish. Quote, this is 4WWL reporting. The two men arrested for the fatal shooting of Lawrence Herr in Kenner may have been motivated because he was white, a detective working the homicide said during a court hearing on Tuesday. On April 11th, Kenner police arrested a 23-year-old and a 25-year-old for the April 10th murder of Lawrence Herr. They are both black. The victim was white. Herr was 66. He was shot and murdered while installing a mailbox outside a home on Georgetown Drive in Kenner. At the time of the killing, the Kenner police chief said one of the suspects confessed to the shooting but didn't have a particular motive. One of the suspects said they were on a random shooting binge and wanted to commit a murder. We think there may be ulterior motives, and that's what detectives are investigating. Well, apparently, at Tuesday's hearing, the lead detective on the case was asked why the pair targeted her. The detective said under questioning, one of the shooters said, quote, they wanted to kill a white person. They wanted to kill a white person. Now, we can all play the game. Imagine for a second the races were reversed here. Imagine for a second this is a story about two white men who shot a 66-year-old black man installing a mailbox. And then, during the investigation, it turns out that they said, we wanted to shoot a black person. This would be national news. Joe Biden would be talking about it. The families of the victim would be at the White House tomorrow. But it is not a national news story because, again, it doesn't match the narrative, even though, statistically speaking, it is far more likely that a black person is going to murder a white person than the white person is going to murder a black person. Doesn't matter. The narrative doesn't match. I think we've reached the point where the fragmentation of narrative is so broad that it's difficult to imagine how we can hold together as a country because of it, honestly. Like the fragmentation, because data doesn't matter. Reality doesn't matter. Science doesn't matter. And a huge percentage of the population feels like one particular narrative is being rammed down their craniums by the powers that be. In which case, resistance, electoral resistance, resistance in the form of commerce, resistance in the form of use of government power, those things are going to become far more likely. When you feel like you're getting gaslit, you tend to react. And that's where we are in the debate right now.